The Amazing Race 38, episode 4. I can't wait to talk about it because I feel like the race has finally started. I love this episode. It is the best episode so far of the season, even though we're still really early. But I feel like we kind of got off to a slower start, and it was starting to feel a little boring for me watching the teams kind of just like race in the same positions because they were so far apart from each other time wise. And this is the episode that changed all of that. So I'm going to jump right in. Natalie and Stephanie, they arrive at the train station first and they're looking for tickets to get to Budapest, Hungary, the next destination. They are confronted with two options. You either take the first train, which arrives at 7:28 the following day. This is like an overnight travel train. It arrives at 7:28 a.m. the following morning. However, it has several transfers. Versus option 2, they would arrive in Budapest at 8:30 a.m. and it would just be an overnight train, no transfers, just one ride, smooth through. So it's presenting a little bit of a dilemma. It's giving detour, and I like this. And watching the teams having to make a decision and weigh their options. Do you take option one, which gets you there an hour earlier? Time is very important. That's like one of the most critical elements of this game. Timing, okay, and being ahead and staying ahead because it's a race. Doing that and having disrupted sleep, maybe not getting barely any sleep at all. We've already seen in other episodes and all seasons where lack of sleep, how that impacts performance and impacts your memory, your retention, your dexterity, just your mental focus, your clarity, things like that. Or do you arrive an hour later? Hour's not that much time. An hour later and get a good night's rest. And also, here's a third point. Option one, taking several different trains. What if there's a delay? What if there's a cancellation? We already saw that in episode 2. So when I was watching, I'm wondering, okay, are they going to weigh, how are they going to weigh these different factors, especially because other teams already have experience having their trade be completely canceled and setting them way, way far back in the pack. Ultimately, they do choose option one, which is to just get there as soon as possible. Forget the sleep. We're ahead. We want to stay ahead. And I understand that. If I was in their position, I would choose the same thing, especially because it's just an hour. I'm like, I think I would be a little bit nervous about, just like different transferring and taking different trains. Even, they even made their own error in episode 2 by getting off of the wrong train station. Like there's also human error that's involved in that. That could be a factor that could put you back. Whereas option 2, you just get there and you just wake up and you're in the destination. But they did choose option 1. JJ also chose option 1. I believe it was like the top 5 teams that were there that were all choosing option 1. It was the Trainwreck Alliance. You have those 3, Eric and Tucker, Izzy and Paige. They all get on that first train and make their way to Budapest. So later we see the bottom 4 teams arriving and they choose to take option 2. I think for some of them, option 2 was the only option that they had by the time that they arrived at the train station. But we saw such a stark difference in the journeys and the experience that these teams had. Option 1, they're getting up every couple hours, they're dragging their feet, they're going up and down stairs at different train stations, and you can see the exhaustion wearing on them. This is also just like an exhausting race. Like it looks fun and adventurous on TV, but in real life, they're worn out. Okay. They're under a lot of pressure. They're traveling all the time. They don't have a lot of time to rest. And, just living out of not even a suitcase, living out of a backpack, just running around, it's a lot. And they're not able to, just like lay down and get a good night's sleep. Then, the edit cuts to the second, like kind of like the bottom 4 teams. So it's going to be like Rubina and Christine, Kat and Alex, Kyland and Taylor, Jack and Chelsea. They sleep like a baby. They're on train 2. They're like, okay, let's go to bed. And they just enjoy their night and they wake up the next morning in Budapest. So the first challenge that they have in Budapest, they have to race to a thermal bath. And there they have to look for a king. I forgot exactly what the wording was, but it was just like search for a king. And when I first, heard that watching as a viewer, I'm like, okay, they're at a bath. Is there going to be somebody dressed up in the king costume? That kind of doesn't go with like being at a thermal bath. But as we know, you always have to decode these types of clues, right? So when they're there, they see a lot of the patrons at the thermal bath playing chess, and they had to look for the king piece. So, I mean, I like visually, I like seeing this challenge. I like seeing that thermal bath. The episode did explain, some history about it, which was neat. But the challenge itself was too simple. It was too easy. Like there was only one, set of chess players that had that king piece, and they were like in the middle of the pool. So the teams that are arriving after each other, kind of one after the other, are looking, they're like, oh, hey, they got the piece over there. Let's go over there. So they all just kind of copied each other. Wasn't difficult, wasn't a needle in a haystack type of challenge. Didn't take that long for them to figure out and identify the king piece. The kind of like caveat with that is once they got that chess piece, there were no further instructions. And this is where, like I said, I'm getting excited because these teams are racing. I feel like they're finally stepping into the amazing race, and it's not so kumbaya and oh, we know each other from Big Brother and we're friends or blah 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 blah. No, because Eric and Tucker were the first ones who got the king piece, and they figured out that you had to like twist the bottom of it off, and then there was a slip of paper inside, and that gives you the location for the next clue box. So they figured that out. They're, running out of there. They're hauling ass. And JJ were like, oh, did you give the piece to somebody? And they were like, nope. And kept moving. I was like, yes, boys, I love me some JJ. But yes, boys, that is the amazing race play that I like to see. Like, we're not helping you. Like Eric and Tucker, I think that is the Trainwrecks Alliance's like biggest rival or threat. So even the fact that JJ asked them for help, I'm like, what did you expect them to say or do? They're not gonna help you. You don't help them. You guys are neck and neck competing with each other. So this is the kind of like one of the few and only times that they've like been ahead of you, JJ. You've been dominating this game for 3 freaking legs so far, and they got this little bit up on you. They ain't saying nothing. They were just like, no, that's not what we did. Bye. And they just like started running, and they were like, they haven't figured out how to open up the piece yet. And I was like, kind of cheering for them. I was like, okay, boys. Like I said, I'm a competitive person. I like seeing other racers, playing the game competitively. The next clue that the boys get to is a clue box for a fast forward. And I'm like, ooh, I love fast forwards. They're always something that are really challenging. I like watching the extreme ones, like shaving your head in India, or there was like another season, I think it was like a father or son team, and they had to like get a tattoo. I think they were in Italy, things like that that are the tattoo is that's pretty permanent. The head shaving, not permanent, but long-term effects. But yeah, so I'm like, okay, it's a fast forward. Let's see what it is. Eric and Tucker get there seconds, it looks like, before JJ. JJ is like right on their heels. And Eric and Tucker see that JJ, they read that clue. They're like, Rubik's Cube, let's go. We're just gonna keep racing. It looks like they made their decision very quickly that that's not for them. To be honest, if I was racing and I was in that position and I would have read that you have to solve a Rubik's Cube, I would have felt the same way. Like, hell no, this is not a tie challenge. Under that, 7.5 seconds, they had to both complete a Rubik's Cube in 7.5 seconds or less together in the same attempt. Nah, partner, that's not happening. Like I said, that doesn't sound like a tie challenge. I've never completed a Rubik's Cube in my life. I don't care if there's directions. Or I know that there's like a strategy or, like a pattern for how to do it, but not knowing how long it's going to take to learn that strategy and also be in sync with your partner and you all doing it, completing it at the same time. I wouldn't have confidence in myself either. I would have been like, this isn't even a consideration. JJ, they're very good players. They're very confident in themselves. So they immediately like, let's just go. That actually influenced Eric and Tucker to do the fast forward because they saw JJ just hightailing it out of there, like not even think about it. So they're like, might as well. And it's another reason why even myself personally really wants to be on The Amazing Race, because you have these unique opportunities to not only try new skills, learn new skills, in this case, even master it. And now you can go back home and be like, hey, want to see my party trick? I can solve a Rubik's Cube in less than 7 seconds. Whoop, whoop. I don't know. It's just cool. So I was rooting for the boys. Like Eric and Tucker, they're not one of my like favorite teams or a team that, like I want to win, but like I said, I like seeing the competition between them and the Trainwreck Alliance. So in this instance, I'm like, okay, boys, you're taking the risk. I also like teams and players that are going to take the risk, going to take the gamble, doing something that seems pretty difficult, completing a Rubik's cube in a very very short period of time. Like I said, instructions are not. That's not something the average person can do in 7 seconds. So let's see. I was rooting for them, and it did have instructions with this. Fast forward in particular with this task, the Rubik's cubes were always set in a certain pattern for them to start from, so that made it honestly like a little bit easier. Once they had the instructions, really this was just a challenge of dexterity and, memorization and speed. That's it. If you can, twist twice to the right and then up and then left and then down and then right and then down and then down, that's all you had to do. You just repeat it enough, practice it, and then you're home free. Eric did get it in like 6.4 seconds, and they're like, whoa, and they're celebrating everything. And the guy was looking at him like, I'm not giving y'all no clue. They had to go back and read the clue, and that's when they remembered, oh snap, like both of us have to do it. Not just Eric, both of us have to do it, correctly and in the same attempt. So they're like, okay, we have the mechanics down. Let's just keep practicing, and doing it. During this time, other teams do start to arrive. And it seemed like by the scene, like more than one team could attempt this fast forward at the same time if they wanted to. We saw Hannah and Simone, pull up. They read that thing. They said, we're not doing that. Natalie and Stephanie saw that card, Rubik's Cube. Not doing that either. Like every other team had the same kind of reaction or first impression I did was like, oh, I'm not about to waste my time mess around with some Rubik's Cube all day and end up out the race. But watching it, Eric and Tucker, ultimately they were successful. They did get it. I was proud of them. They completed the fast forward and they went to the pit stop and they finished in first place. Meanwhile, JJ, we got to talk about JJ because JJ had some struggles this episode, this leg, that were unique to them for factors that are completely out of their control. We are watching JJ standing on the street, waving their arms, trying to flag down a cab, just like every other team. But JJ can't get a cab. They're even, amongst each other having conversations like, is this the right way to wave down a taxi? Like, are we doing something wrong? What's happening? They're noticing that taxis are going past them that are empty, that don't even have any passengers in them. And that's why I'm like, okay, what are we doing in Hungary? What's going on? It's giving racist. It's giving xenophobic. They start speaking about it more so in the episode that they have experienced before, being people that are of Sikh religion, being people that are of color, and being discriminated against. And it's sad to see, but this is the world that we live in. Unfortunately, there are these situations that come up that people have to deal with. And what I admired is their attitude about it and, the way that they also, I'll kind of jumping ahead a little bit, but they make an adjustment. Eventually they do get a cab. And they do say like, like we're thankful that this nice gentleman stopped for us and, we're going to be on our way. They do open up and say that, we've experienced discrimination, throughout our lives just because of how we look. And they took it in stride. And then later in the race when they were instructed to take another, to travel somewhere else, they got on the metro. They got on the bus. They said, oh no, we are not. They wasted. No, I'm not going to say they wasted because it wasn't their fault. There was so much time that was wasted that from after they decided not to do the Rubik's Cube to get to the next clue, to get to the detour, there was so much time that was wasted. It knocked them down so far in the race. I'm not saying like they were last or anything, but remember, they're like in second place. They're right, in the front just because they couldn't get a cab. Natalie and Stephanie were already at the detour, working on it. Other teams are getting their cabs. They're going to the detour. Hannah and Simone, or actually it wasn't the detour. It was the roadblock that was next. I'm all over the place. But anyways, my point is the other teams had no difficulty getting a cab and moving on with the race. And just because of that, it really, JJ suffered a huge time loss. But again, they're smart players. They're adaptable. They figure, you know what? Hungry not messing with us. We can't do anything about that. We can't control them. We can't make a taxi cab stop for us. There's no point in trying to, repeat and keep doing this unless the card specifically says you have to get a taxi. If it just says travel from A to B, they opted to take the metro and to take the bus. And I was like, bravo, boys. You adapted, you adjusted. It's not fair. But you did what you had to do, and you didn't let it bring you down, and you didn't let it affect, your mental within the race. I felt like, they still continued forward from that, and they still performed really well. So the roadblock that we see has the clue question, who thinks they can coach? So if I was in the Amazing Race, I would assume that it's like coaching a sport or something, because I interpret everything super literally, even though the clues usually aren't that literal. But I would think so anyways. And I would volunteer because I'm like, I have leadership skills. Like, not that I've played, a lot of organized sports or team sports in my day, but I'm a leader. I can coach. So I would immediately be like, I'll do this one, because I'm thinking it has to do something with like managing people or a team or something. Totally wrong. There were other teams that said in the episode too that they thought that's what it would have to do with. I think Kat said that she thought that's kind of the type of challenge it would be. No. So they have to go through like this course, and it's like a figure eight type of course that they have to steer like the horses through, and they get like a little lesson, like pull on this rein for it to go right, go left, give a slack to stop, pull it, or whatever the instructions are. I don't quite remember. And you have to do it in under 45 seconds. So it's also timed, and there's cones. You have to make sure that, the horses or the wheels don't knock over the cones or anything. You have to stay the course. For a lot of the other teams, the who wants to coach roadblock is actually seen as more of an equalizer, because it's taking them multiple attempts. By the time that JJ arrived, they tell the viewers that they both have their CDL. So they're like, okay, we know how to, make smooth turns, wide turns, just having like the perception and things like that. So they're pretty confident. Takes them a couple tries, but they get it done. They get out of there. Hannah and Simone arrive pretty early-ish, and we see it's Simone is the one who's in the driver's seat, who's steering the horses, and she's having some difficulty, and other teams are starting to pass. Hannah's starting to get tense about it, because it's like, you can't help your partner. There's nothing you can do, but time is going by, and you're losing the lead that you had, and you're losing your position in the race. Very, very stressful. After Natalie and Stephanie finish the Who Wants to Coach roadblock, they travel to get their next clue. And it's at some kind of like Houdini museum, right? And there's these wooden boxes, and it has like the chains and the locks, because like Houdini was like an escape artist or whatever. So they have these keys, and they have to, try to unlock them and unlock the box. Then when you realize you open the box, it's like, oh, there's nothing in there. And it's like I don't know, I forgot what they called it, but there was like a little sliding thing at the bottom. Like it was like kind of like a trap trick box or whatever going on with the Houdini theme, whatever. So they get the clue, and it's either it's for a detour. And the detour options are to either do a juggling act with your partner, where you have to juggle 5 rings for at least 10 seconds, or perform a dance with your partner, some kind of traditional dance. One partner would have like a glass bottle on their head. The Amazing Race love to do these dances where they balancing some kind of bottle or object on their head. And then the other dance partner had to like learn choreography with like a little stick. Okay, easy enough. My girl Natalie, she reads that clue for that detour, and she's like, what is juggling? You never been to the circus? What is juggling? And her sister's like telling her, she was like, yeah, it's like when you like throw things, and like it's juggling. What do you mean, what is juggling? You don't know what juggling is? Girl. And so then she was like, what are rings? I'm gonna give her grace here. I think she was tired, because she did option A with them trains. Okay, she didn't get a lot of sleep. I guess she's stressed out, overthinking. I don't know what was going on with Natalie, but when she asked, what is juggling? What are rings? I'm like, go ahead and dance, girl. Like, yeah. That's what they ended up doing. They opted to do the detour and doing the dance together because Natalie she couldn't put two and two together. You don't know what juggling is? Okay. So her and her sister are actually the first team to arrive at the detour and to attempt doing it. And they have a pretty good handle on it. I think it only took them 2 times and they were out of there. And I'm like, go girls. I like Natalie and Stephanie as a team. I think right now in this season, I really am rooting for all female teams. I want an all female team to win, whether it be Natalie and Stephanie, Simone and Hannah, or oh gosh, oh, Izzy and Paige. How can I forget Izzy and Paige? Like those are my favorites. I really do like JJ and they are really strong. I think they might win just because they're a really, really good team. But I would love to see an all-female team win over them, if that makes sense. Kylan or Taylor are getting back in the race, but they're having problems finding the clue box for the roadblock. And at one point, Taylor even says, like, should we have the fast pass? Should we just use the fast pass? And I'm like, no. Gosh, you didn't even. That's when you're really behind and you just don't have time to do the challenge. It's not we didn't even get to the challenge. We don't even know what it is yet. What if it is something that we can do quickly? I understand that she's behind and they're lost and it's frustrating. And in that moment, probably the only thing you can think about is how much time is going by and being wasted because you can't even find the clue, the clue box. But they don't use that fast pass, thank God. Kind of like, no, we're not going to do that. They do end up finding the box and they do make it to the roadblock. And Kylan elects to do it. And let me tell you, he does so well. In his first attempt, he gets it, but he doesn't get it in time. But he does the course like perfectly. He doesn't knock out any cones. He's steering the horses. They have this great flow going, but he goes just like a little bit too slow. So I was like, okay, he got it. And he did. He got in the second attempt. Izzy and Paige, they complete the Who Wants to Coach roadblock. They make it to the Houdini boxes, opening up the locks. They decide to do the dance challenge. And when I tell you, my girls crushed this, one and done again, one attempt. And they were out of there. And I was like, that's what I'm talking about. That's what I'm talking about. They've done that before in another leg. I love to see it. I love to see that they're focused. I love to see that, they are, just like really adaptable. They can do these things and dancing, bouncing, like a bottle in your head and trying to remember the choreography, especially for people that aren't dancers. And this is something that's pretty new for them. I was happy for them. I was like, go girls, get out of there and go find Phil on the mat. JJ also decided to do the dancing detour, but before that, this is the part where I kind of talked about earlier, where they are trying to, just kind of like adjust their strategy when it comes to the transportation. So when they get their clue and they're seeing where they have to go, they actually find another person, another man out on the street who's also wearing a turban, and they explain to the viewers that they are Sikh and in their religion if you see another turban brother, he will help you. We're all helping each other. Like that is the community. That is, what they practice. So they meet him, they ask him for help. He does help them. And that's when they decide, you know what? It's probably best for us just to take, the metro and the bus or whatever we got to do public transportation wise, because these cabs ain't messing with us and we do not have time to waste. So I really appreciated seeing that moment in The Amazing Race as well. When Kylan and Taylor arrive at the detour, they actually decide to do the juggling. And in my head, I'm like, okay, this is going to be interesting to watch. If it was me between the two detours, oh, we dancing. Okay, I'm already a dancer. So, period. Like, anytime there's a dance challenge, I'm like, let's dance, okay? And whoever my partner is, hopefully I can race with my friend Gio. He's also a Zumba instructor. He's a dancer. We can do a 5, 6, 7, 8. We can do 3 counts. We can do no counts because as we saw, Kat was getting all flustered. Like, you guys don't dance in 8 counts. No, she's dancing by the beat, the little however it went. Like, just do it with that. Like, you can dance on beat, right, girl? Come on now. But yeah, dancing, I'm always going to choose that. I also cannot juggle. There's like one time in elementary school where I'm not going to get into the whole story, but basically we had somebody come to try to teach us how to juggle for this like big school event project end of the year thing. And no, I mean, I know I was a kid when I tried, but I can't juggle. Maybe I could be taught, but the Amazing Race is not the time to find that out. No, not with $1 million on the line. I would not be messing with that at all. But Kylan and Taylor decided to do juggling. But Kylan and Taylor, they decided to do juggling. And I'm like, this is going to be interesting. Let's see. They pick out their instructor and they're actually getting the hang of it. Joseph and Adam also choose juggling. They are the only two teams that chose that detour. Everybody else was like, let's go dance. And watching those two teams and comparing them trying to learn and perform the juggling act was hilarious. Kylan and Taylor, they're in sync. They're on the same page. And, they start with like the one and the two, and they're figuring out, okay, throw it a little higher, or, you have to like throw it to like the alternating hand of your partner. I think, like I said, I can't juggle. I don't know. Just from what I could see, I think that's how it works. But they're getting the hang of it. And the instructor's like, okay, let's add another one. And they're doing it. And I'm like, okay, they got it. Then we go to Joseph and Adam. They're struggling. They're on the struggle bus. When I was watching it, I'm like, okay, it seems like they're throwing the rings at each other. Like it's more like a toss. And you want it to have like some air time, so that because there has to be like at least one in the air at all times. And, just to have like the flow. They're just like, they're like kind of throwing each other all hard and too fast and too low. And they were not in sync at all. And I'm like, y'all might want to go dance. That's what I was thinking. I'm like, they're not going to get this. Kylan and Taylor get it within just a couple of attempts. They get out of there. They check in with Phil. They are done. Joseph and Adam. Before we went to commercial break, I think they were on like their 64th attempt. And I'm like, and they're just getting so, and you could tell the communication wasn't going really well at that point, because they're just like, no, you're throwing it too far, you're throwing it too low, and they're like keep moving around and having to get low and having to get high, because they don't have that sync or that flow or that rhythm with each other. But I commend them because they did not give up. They did not give up. I think it took them 164 attempts, but they got it. They got it, and they made it to the mat in time, checked in with Phil, and were not eliminated. Kylan and Taylor finally broke their 9th place curse, and they actually finished in 4th because they did so well. They crushed that juggling challenge. I was like, yes, thank God. Not only y'all out of 9th place, but you're also at the front of the pack now. So I love this episode because we saw a lot of the teams just like surging from, the bottom to the top and changing positions. JJ has fallen from grace, largely for circumstances outside of their control, but it is the Amazing Race, and they weren't the first place, they weren't the second place. Everybody is moving around. The game is much more fluid and competitive now. So while all this is going on, there's still the teams at the back of the pack, or that are now the back of the pack, that are still trying to finish the Who Wants to Coach challenge. Hannah and Simone. Simone is the one who's doing the coaching, and she's struggling. Okay, she's not getting it. More time is going by. It's very tense for Hannah. It's very frustrating to watch when you can't help, you can't do anything, and you have this lead in this good position, and it's just like slipping through your fingers, and you're like, oh my gosh, what are we gonna do? The worst part was Simone actually like got her horses through the whole course, and then like right before the finish line, the horses just stopped. And I'm like, go! Time! What's going on? And I don't know, she did try to pull it or whatever, but I was like, and they just stood there, she just timed out, and I'm like, oh my gosh, this is too much. So they do make it out of there. Everybody makes it out of there, but they do make it out of there. They move on to the detour. And when they got to that detour, they were talking so fast. They were like, okay, look, we're both dancers. We can pick up really fast. Like, we're just going to do the dance and show it to us. I was like, okay, girls. Like, they still going up the steps, and they just like telling the guy, like, come on, teach us fast. Like, we have to go. And I know that they were just like feeling, like just like that pressure, especially coming off of a tough roadblock and losing so much time. They do make up the time. They're both dancers. And when I tell you, baby, they put on a performance. They were so cute. I mean, they had the facial expressions, they had the big arms. Hannah was doing her thing with the cane. She had a little extra pep in her step. I mean, they were performing. They were giving the drama. They were giving the theater. They had the stage presence. They had the everything. And they cleared that challenge like it was nothing, honey. They said, "Oh yeah, we don't need an 8 count, Miss Cat. We are dancers. We just gonna pick up and learn and feel this beat, and we gonna get it done." So I was so happy to see that. They make it to the pit stop with Phil, and it gets really emotional. They had a really, really trying day. They were down on themselves. They fought their way back up. And in this race, especially when you don't see that many teams around you, you don't know where you are or what could happen. So by the time they get to the mat, they were like really emotional and they're like crying. And around the same time, I think they got to the mat first, and then right after them, um, what are their names? Gosh, Joseph and Adam got there. And everybody crying at the mat. Okay. It was just waterworks because Joseph and Adam, try to get that juggling 168 times or whatever the number was. And I'm like, oh my gosh, it was a good episode. It was a good leg of the race. This race is really pushing these teams, and we're seeing all range of emotions throughout this episode in particular, which is why it is my favorite so far this season. We do see a bit of strategy, a little bit of strategic thinking and talking with Team JJ as they're making their way to the pit stop. They think about U-turning possibly Paige and Izzy in the future if they have the opportunity, noting their strength that they completed the detour on their first try. And it's not their first time doing that either. They're a solid team, one and done, baby. So I think it possibly has to do with that. I also think it possibly has to do with the fact at the very beginning of this episode when they were in the train station trying to figure out tickets, Izzy and Paige were like using a stranger's phone, just like comparing and looking at the different trains. And Adam and Joseph came over and they like hug them and they're like talking. They're like, "Oh, Izzy and Paige are asking the boys, what you guys got this train? Okay, blah, blah, blah." Then JJ comes over trying to get in the conversation, and Izzy shut that down. Izzy was like, "Yeah, yeah, okay, yeah, like we're just," she like blew them off, right? And Jazz was saying, like, that just tells us that she doesn't want to work with us, blah, blah, blah. Could be some leftover Big Brother tension because Izzy and Jag were on the same season, and we know that Jag ended up ultimately winning that season. Um, or maybe they're playing the game. They're like, y'all are the strong team. Y'all been in first place. Like, we don't want y'all to know what we're doing, or we don't want you to get any information about, from us, whatever information we're gathering here. Like, we're not working with you. I think that with like such a dominant team like JJ, it's probably not smart to make enemies with them. I'm not saying like work with them, but if you're gonna like, if you don't want to share information with them, like maybe do it in like a more like subtle way, or just like kind of just like tell them something. Like Izzy was very abrupt. She was just like, no, we're just gonna, I forgot what she said, but she was like, bye. Pretty much to JJ, like, and she like turned her back, like, okay, we're not talking to you guys, bye. And I was like, I guess it's good TV though. I like it. I like this stuff in the Amazing Race, which is why I feel like now, like this leg, episode 4, the race has really begun. I don't want to see JJ U-turn Izzy and Paige, because Izzy and Paige are one of my top 3 teams that I want to win. I want an all females team to win this season. But if they do, I got to respect the strategy. I got to respect the hustle. They are observant and they're noticing the strength in Izzy and Paige. And maybe it is partly personal, but that's okay. They have their reasons. And if they decide to make that decision, I'm just going to hope and pray that Izzy and Paige can, make it out of it. But there is a U-turn coming up, and I can't wait to see it. So Robina and Christine, Kat and Alex, and Jack and Chelsea. Those are the 3 teams that are the last teams that make it out of the Who Wants to Coach challenge and have to get to the detour. Kat's doing her normal, okay? She's getting frustrated. She's getting flustered because she's not picking it up as quickly. She's asking the dancers, like, you guys don't use 8 counts? And the lady's like, girl, just copy what I'm doing on the beat and the music that does, like it's pretty easy. Do the little foot thing, turn around. The person with the cane is doing this, and then you do it together and do, and then at the end, like she's like, just copy me, mirror me. Like it goes with the music, it goes with the beat. It's like kind of like a, I don't know, folk music dance kind of beat or whatever. But if you're a dancer, it shouldn't be that hard. That's all I'm saying. That's all I'm saying. But it is hard for Kat, Miss former NFL cheerleader, and she's doing her usual. Kat's gonna cat. She's gonna have a meltdown. She's gonna cry. She's gonna get frustrated. And I mean, more kudos to Alex because he has the patience of a saint for just dealing with this constantly. If I was in this race and my partner kept acting like that, y'all would start getting some cinema. Y'all would get some television because, baby, no, I'm not having it. I'm not having it. I don't care if the camera's around. I don't care. We need to get this money. You need to snap out of it. And my attitude would be out the window. I would be so frustrated, be at my wit's end. I'm not a patient person to begin with. I'm not an overly emotional person to begin with. And when I'm focused on a task, if I have a partner that I'm relying on and they are acting like that, oh no, we're gonna have a problem. Like, but Alex is super patient. He's dealing with her drama. He's dealing with her crap better than me. And I don't know. To me, it was given like she was just kind of like making excuses. I'm like, girl, you're not, even though you're a dancer and you're not quite getting this, like not every solid dance, you're going to easily pick up on. I don't know if it was like her ego was getting a little hurt by that or whatever, because the other teams that aren't or haven't been professional dancers, they're finishing and leaving. It ultimately comes down to Jack and Chelsea and Alex and Kat as the last two teams to finish up this dancing detour. Jack and Chelsea actually finish before Alex and Kat. And I'm like, okay, go, 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 go. But then they have trouble getting a cab. And I'm like, what is going on in Hungary? Like, I don't like this. So now, like I said, like the gap is tightening because Alex and Kat, they do finish, like through like her tears. And she like tried to like give up at one point. She was like, I just can't do this. And I'm like, this is not the race for her. This isn't the game for her. This isn't the show for her. I haven't seen her on Big Brother. Maybe that was, something that was better suited for her. But this type of format, the same as I don't think this was the right game for Megan and Matt, just because like they're way too chill about everything. They had like no sense of urgency, or I mean they cared about being there, but I don't know. They were just coasting. This isn't the type of game to coast. And I think with Kat, she does not perform well under, pressure and just her emotions. Not the game for her, right? Because Jack and Chelsea struggle with getting a cab, I'm thinking, oh my gosh, Alex and Kat are gonna catch up and they're gonna check in before Jack and Chelsea, and we're gonna be stuck with the drama queen. And Chelsea's gonna go home with her dad. And I don't want that to happen. And it didn't happen. Jack and Chelsea, they make it to the pit stop before Kat and Alex. But when Kat and Alex got there, okay, she's like blubbering, crying. And she's like, oh, sorry, I just keep crying. And feels like, yeah, a lot of people have been crying on the mat today, but continue. And Alex says something, and I swear, I just was like, turn off the TV. He was like, I'm proud of her. She didn't give up. She didn't quit. Be for real. She just quit. She was quitting at the freaking dance thing when she was like, I can't do this. I don't want it. And she tried to like walk out of the room. Like, we all saw it. The cameras was there. The cameras was on. She did try to quit and give up. Okay. Like, you kept her there. Like, as you have the majority of the race. But for all intents and purposes, you all completed the leg. And you made it to the pit stop. Ultimately, they were eliminated and went home. Personally, I won't miss them. I don't feel like, I mean, I knew they weren't going to win. I hate to say it, but not even because they've been at the back of the pack. But like I said, she can't keep it together. And you have to be mentally strong and mentally focused in this game. And she doesn't really like have that because she's very emotional. So I had a feeling they would be going home anyways. Like I said, I'm not really going to miss them. But I do think that like this was the start of the season getting juicier, like getting juicy, like and messy drama wise. For finishes of episode 4, we have Tucker and Eric in first place, courtesy of their fast forward. Natalie and Stephanie in second place. Izzy and Paige in third place. Love to see it. Kylan and Taylor in fourth place. They broke their ninth place curse finally, so happy for them. Jazz and Jag, JJ in fifth place, a place that they've never been before. They are now technically middle of the pack, so we'll see if they can climb their way out of that. Hannah and Simone sitting in sixth place. Joseph and Adam right behind them in seventh place. Christine and Robina in eighth place, and Jack and Chelsea, unfortunately, in last at ninth place. I really hope that they can pick it up and they don't get eliminated next episode, but we'll see. I'm really looking forward to next week because the episode title is I want to be a little angry right now. So I really think the drama and the game is going to continue to heat up. Stay tuned. Bye.